Isn't it remarkable how a culture, in the midst of a great and unsettling transformation, can forge a story to make sense of it all? The most powerful myths are not always ancient tales of gods and monsters whispered around the fire. Sometimes, they are born from the anxious hum of new machinery, from the scent of coal smoke on the wind, from the jarring rhythm of steel striking stone. The legend of John Henry is one such story. It is not an old world fairy tale, but perhaps one of the very first modern American myths, a story our recent ancestors created to wrestle with the question that now, once again, stands directly before us. What is the value of a human being in the age of the machine? To truly understand the weight of John Henry's hammer, we must first feel the ground tremble beneath his feet. The story is set in the years following the American Civil War, a time of explosive industrial expansion. Railroads, the iron arteries of a new nation, were being driven through the ancient, unyielding mountains of the Appalachians. This was a brutal, Herculean task, performed by men known as steel drivers. Their job was a relentless ballet of force and stamina, swinging a massive sledgehammer to pound a steel drill into solid rock over and over, boring a hole just deep enough for a stick of dynamite. It was a job that demanded more than just muscle. It demanded a spirit as hard as the steel they drove. And in this world of titans, John Henry was said to be the greatest of them all, a man whose strength was so profound it became the stuff of legend. His pride was not in his power IT self, but in the purpose it served in the craft of his labor. This is the first, and perhaps most crucial, layer of the story: the dignity of labor. In our modern world, we often separate the worker from their work. A job is a means to an end. But for John Henry and the steel driving man, the work was the identity. To be the best was not about being the most productive employee. It was about being the most realized version of yourself. Your skill, your endurance, your rhythm, these were not just metrics. They were virtues. This deep, almost spiritual connection to one's craft is a powerful human need. And it is this very need that is the first casualty of technological disruption. Into this world of sweat-forged dignity comes the salesman. He arrives not with a weapon, but with something far more threatening, a promise of efficiency. He brings a steam-powered drill, a chugging, hissing contraption of pistons and gears that he claims can outdrill AM man. The railroad captain, a man of budgets and timelines, is naturally intrigued. To him, the equation is simple. Faster work means more profit. But to John Henry, the equation is existential. The machine doesn't just threaten his job, it threatens his meaning. It suggests that the skill he has honed his entire life, the very core of his identity, is now obsolete, a problem to be solved by better engineering. And so, we arrive at the heart of the conflict, which is not a simple race, but a wager for worth. John Henry stands before the captain and makes his challenge. He will face the steam drill. This is not for a prize, not for a bonus. He is betting his life to prove a philosophical point, that a man with will and spirit is more than a machine. He is fighting for the idea that human value cannot and should not be measured solely by output. He is defending the soul of work itself against the cold calculus of progress. This is a battle we see replayed today in every field touched by automation and artificial intelligence. The artist fears the image generator. The writer fears the language model, not just because they fear unemployment, but because they fear irrelevance. They fear that the human spark, the struggle and soul poured into creation, will be deemed an inefficient, unnecessary variable in a world that only values the final product. The contest begins. The machine shrieks to life, its mechanical rhythm steady, tireless, and unfeeling. And beside it stands John Henry, wielding not one, but TWO heavy hammers, a whirlwind of controlled human energy. The song tells us the mountain itself rang with the sound of his blows. His wife, Polly Ann, stands with him, a quiet testament to the fact that this is not just one man's fight, but a human endeavor, rooted in community and support. He is not just a force of nature. He is a man who gets thirsty, whose tools grow dull, who needs another human being by his side. And then, the tragic, profound climax. The contest ends. The measurements are taken. The steam drill has bored a hole 9 feet deep into the rock. John Henry, through sheer impossible effort, has drilled 2 separate holes of 7 feet each, a total of 14 feet. The crowd erupts. The man has won. He has proven that the human spirit, for one glorious, back-breaking hour, can indeed triumph. But the victory is fleeting. Having made his point, John Henry stands tall and then collapses. His heart bursts from the strain, the hammer still clutched in his hand. He wins the battle, but in doing so, he loses the war in the most devastating way imaginable. His victory is a Pyrrhic one. He proved that a man can beat the machine, but only by destroying himself in the process. His triumph becomes the ultimate argument for the machine's necessity. It demonstrates, in the starkest possible terms, that the human cost of competing at that level is unsustainable. He saved his and his fellow workers' jobs for a day, perhaps, but his sacrifice ensured the future belonged to the steam drill. No company captain, having witnessed that, would ever again ask a man to do what a machine could do more safely and ultimately more reliably. So why do we tell this story? If its lesson is that fighting the machine is a fatal endeavor, why is John Henry a hero and not a fool? Because the legend of John Henry is not a practical instruction manual for labor relations. It is a monument. It is a testament to the indomitable nature of the human spirit, a refusal to be rendered worthless without a fight. We celebrate him not for the wisdom of his choice, but for the courage of it. He chose to meet an inevitable future, not with passive resignation, but with his hammer in his hand, defining himself on his own terms until his very last breath. The story allows us to honor the values of the world we are losing, the world of human craft, of physical dignity, of a person's worth being inseparable from their will, even as we accept the arrival of the new one. His legend tells us that even when facing inevitable, overwhelming change, there is a profound, lasting power in choosing to stand for something. He did not save the steel-driving man from obsolescence, but he immortalized his spirit. And now, that story lands on our doorstep. We stand at the precipice of our own Big Ben tunnel, staring down machines that don't just threaten our muscles, but our minds, our creativity, our very patterns of thought. The legend of John Henry is not about the past. It is a mirror. It asks us, in this new age of intelligent machines, what it is we truly value, what part of our humanity is not negotiable. And as we prepare to make our own stand, whatever form it may take, the story leaves us with this final, haunting question: what will it cost us to win?